Hey, what's going on guys? Queasy here. Today, I want to talk about what makes a knife good. Now, that is a weird question to ask, I know, but to be honest, most knives that are being made today, that are being produced and flipped, they're all very solid. When you take a step back and think about, where Balisongs kind of came from and what was available like 20 years ago, the game has changed a lot. Back when Benchmade was controlling the scene, they only had washer knives, and that was the best that you could afford at the time. Not to really bag on washer systems, because there are knives that run on washers that flip phenomenally. It all comes down to balance, preference, and tolerance, really. And even tolerance is a bit of a preference, because some people don't mind really loose tolerances. Some people don't mind a lot of tap and a lot of play. Others are really kind of anal about it. I would prefer my knives to not have tap, just because I feel like it's a bit more precise and just satisfying to flip, in my opinion. It makes the overall experience a little more enjoyable for me, right? And that's another thing. It's all preference. So how do you find your preferences? Well, you kind of have to think about a number of different things. One being balance. I like neutral knives. A lot of experienced flippers like neutral knives, or maybe a little bit of handle bias. Blade bias just feels kind of awkward sometimes. Another is pivot systems. So whether you like bushings, washers, or bearings. Another is weight. I actually have carpal tunnel, so I don't like really heavy knives because it tires me out too quickly. I like really light knives because then I can flip faster and for longer periods of time. Most knives these days that are built out of aluminum or titanium are going to be able to take a beating, if that's your concern. It'll develop cosmetic damage, but it'll still flip pretty much the same throughout. Unless it's washers. See, if you beat washers, then the tolerances just get worse and worse the more you beat it. Aesthetic is a huge thing too. Some people will prefer a knife based off of its aesthetics, if they're not too into flipping. Another thing is the buzz, or like the action. For a lot of people, that means everything, including myself, because that buzz is so satisfying in a very specific way, and you could feel that when you flip, when you do a short stop, when you catch an ice pick aerial. Anytime the handles open up into this open position, if it rattles a little bit as you close it, for me, that's golden. My personal preferences are a neutral belly with a pretty light weight. Anything around the 4 ounce mark. Anything above like 4.3 is a bit too heavy for my liking. So to answer the question, what makes a belly good? In my experience, after flipping a number of different knives, it all comes down to preference. A good knife is, something that has no tap, little play, and that has a good buzz, and is not too heavy. But that's for me. I know plenty of people who like really heavy knives because the momentum carries a bit better for them, and they just like having that aggressive, heavy action. I know people who like a super handle bias knife because, again, it helps with carrying momentum a little bit. For me, neutral knives are easier to manipulate with like technical tricks. So if you're in the market to buy one, and you're scrolling through the sales tag, or you're looking on Blade HQ or whatever, if you see one that looks pretty cool and that you're thinking of getting, why not get it? You know, if you don't like it, you could always resell it on the sales tag for basically the same price that you got it at. So little to no loss there. But it's important to work your way up so you can appreciate the lower value knives before you move on to the really expensive ones. I started out having a collection of 18 CCCs, and I loved each and every one of them at the time. You know, and then as I moved on, I started to really appreciate the quality that was in these newer knives. And I say knives, even though this is a trainer, I understand that, but it's just easier to say that.